With the Yao Guang's rerun in the 4.3 update coming up, today I'm here with the should you or should you not summon, where we go over Yao Guang's spot in the meta since her release roughly about 3 patches ago, then talking about her vertical investment, primarily E1, E2, and S1, finally reasons why you should or should not summon, and then at the very end I will have an investment guide on how you should go about it for people that do want to summon for her, but are unsure how they should go about vertically investing into her, so stay tuned for that if you are interested. Stuck grinding in Honkai Star Rail? Need Stellar Jades fast? We've got you covered. Head over to U7 Buy, your ultimate gaming hub for safe, fast, and cheap in-game top-ups. Whether it's Star Rail or your other favorite games, U7 delivers instantly and players love it. Check out their Trustpilot reviews, they're actually top ranked. On the Honkai Star Rail direct top-up page, you can recharge your account in seconds. For example, 8080 Honorific shards cost $99.99 in the official store, however on U7 Buy, you can see the price is cheaper. When you head over to U7 Buy, you might notice that the storefront display prices currently match the in-game store, but don't worry, the magic happens at checkout. Once you click the Buy Now button, your total instantly drops to our actual discounted price only. Just pick your server, enter UID, pay securely, and boom, your account is instantly loaded. Want extra savings? Use code PRETSR at checkout for 5% off, perfect for last minute pulls, battle passes, or surprising a friend. And here's a bonus. If you spend $80 a month on U7 Buy, you can grab the Honkai Star Rail Express Pass for only 1 cent, which is nearly free. Click on the link in my description, recharge fast, save more, and keep blazing those trails. Yao Guang had a slightly shaky release. While outside of her ability to actually instantly proc Aha Instant with her ultimate, the stuff she provided wasn't necessarily that insane, especially since when she came out we didn't know how Elation would turn out. It was more of a consensus to see if you should actually pull her and then see if she was on the teams, or a case where you should actually wait to pull her on the original banner instead and just wait for a rerun, which would be this one, which was actually something I advocated as well just because we didn't know how important she would be. However, it was quickly proven, especially with some info going around, that she was actually not going to be the one to be replaced, and how the stuff where it was like, yeah, maybe Yao Guang was going to be the one for Evanescea while Sparksy was the one for Silverwolf. It just turned out that Yao Guang was the better increase for both of them. The increase she has to Elation damage, of course, is always beneficial since increasing Elation damage would be one of the few ways to increase it. Her also just being an Elation character to speed up the Aha instant speed since you need to be Elation to speed that up. Ultimate provides 20% res pen, which is good, always was good, but when you account for her other stuff, it wasn't like too crazy. Elation skill is some vulnerability with 16% increased damage. But finally, the biggest focus, which was always the thing, which was the instant Aha instant through her ultimate, since once you do use her ultimate, you give Aha an extra turn with the fixed amount of 20 punchline, and so everyone on the team can get their Elation skills to be going off. Yao Guang would go first, then Sparksy, then Silverwolf or Evanescea, and now Elation MC would go in between as well. It always depends on the participant ID. So it turns out the stuff that she did actually provide, while not seeming too crazy outside of the actual instant proc, ended up actually being the biggest increase for both Evanescea and Silverwolf, who are the two main DPS for Elation. There wasn't really much you could do from a release because she released in the first half of 4.0, where you couldn't really actually use her anywhere outside of like budget teams that were worse. Then you waited till second half where Sparksy did release, and then you finally had a more optimal team where you'd run her with Sparksy as the main carry, then Sparkle, and then your sustain or sustainless. And that's kind of all you did have until Silverwolf did release, where you can run all 3 of them together because the optimal team would be Silverwolf SP, Sparksy, and Yao Guang, and then last all would go to sustain or sustainless depending on what you do. And it turned out that Calx proved that Yao Guang actually would be the bigger increase to have as opposed to Sparksy, where originally we thought Sparksy would be the bigger increase and then Yao Guang would be more for Evanescea. As I mentioned previously, it just turned out that Calx did prove and performance did prove, especially when Silverwolf came out, that Yao Guang was just more important, and then Evanescea released and Yao Guang was more important there as well, since there's not really much that Evanescea could benefit from when it comes to Sparksy. So from a shaky to release to actually being like the most important Elation character, just because anything you want to do, if you want to do main DPS Sparksy, if you want to run Silverwolf in general, if you want to run Evanescea in general, Yao Guang is on all their teams. So the shaky release just turned into a, yeah, you want this unit. So now for anyone that did end up missing her, definitely would be looking at this upcoming rerun. Now when we do take a look at her vertical investment, her E1 actually increases the amount of punchline taken into account from her Aha extra action provided from the ultimate. So instead of 20 punchline taken into account, it is now 40. So that's a significant increase in damage, as punchline is going to be better the more you have, as that's just more damage. And on top of that, Elation damage dealt by allied targets will ignore 20% of the target's defense. So not only does it make the actual extra turn stronger, now just anyone on the team doing Elation damage would be doing more damage thanks to defense ignore, and if they have more sources via a different investment, then it becomes even stronger. From the get-go with Sparksy main DPS, E1 Yao Guang was valuable just because it's just really good. And now we go to the release of Silverwolf SP, where you do need to generate punchline to get her into her actual transform state, and Yao Guang with E1 E1 actually is able to instantly get her into the ultimate if your Yao Guang does act first in battle, and you are able to get ultimate before anyone acts. If you do that and then you pop ult, Silverwolf would be able to go into ultimate right after. That was a big value point. On top of that, it's also more certified banger gen. So once we got Evanescea after, more certified banger obviously would be a lot more important for all Elation characters, but especially Evanescea, who actually really needs the certified banger to be converted to energy. So that E1, despite being super valuable just for main DPS Sparksy even, with Silverwolf became crucial for really quick ultimates and getting your rotation going, and then for Evanescea, the certified banger gen, and universally, the damage increase was insane. On the flip side, her E2 is a 12% speed increase for the team and 16% elation. This dupe is very mediocre. While it can be good for building other characters, and Silverwolf does scale off speed, so even if you have a well-built Silverwolf with 200 plus speed, this would still be an increase to elation since she converts that. Same thing with Yao Guang, and also can help you hit Yao Guang's 200 speed thresholds or higher. But for a whole extra pity, potentially 2 if you lost, just for that, and also just 16% elation, it is generally not worth it. And our S1 on the other hand is an 18% speed increase for Yao Guang. Entering combat gives the wearer great fortune, or if they also use an ultimate on an allied target for 3 turns, increasing the team's crit rate by 10% and crit damage by 30%, and also increasing the wearer's energy regen by 12%, and the wearer will regenerate 15 energy fixed at the start of each wave. This Lycone is also really good. Increasing Yao Guang's speed is very good for building her, since you want to build her as fast as you possibly can, as she usually wants to be the first one to act in battle. Just entering battle gives everyone 10% crit rate, 30% crit damage, which she is able to keep up for the most part. And also, this ultimate enables the first turn ultimate. Without this Lycone honor, you actually cannot immediately ult with Yao Guang. So if you were to even have like an energy regen planner, you were to go into battle, Yao Guang's the first one to act, let's say Von Walk. You were to basic or even skill because it gives the same energy. She would not be able to actually get the ultimate off unless she got hit or other external sources. However, with this Lycone, with that 15 fixed energy, it allows you to get it. That's the biggest part of that last part. Unfortunately, it's only once per wave, so it's not actually that crazy besides the first one, but that first one can help you set up your rotations. And the extra energy regen rate it does provide is also nice throughout the battle, as it's just going to be more energy you are able to generate. So speed for building her, crit value for the entire team, and a good amount at that, with energy regen for Yao Guang, and also enabling first turn ultimates makes this Lycone actually quite valuable. Now, finally, reasons why you should or should not summon. This is extremely simple now that we do have enough DPSs to back it up. If you have Silverwolf, you have Evanescea, or you want to pull them at all in the future, Yao Guang is currently non-negotiable. While they can clear without Yao Guang right now, the moment the shield ends, it's going to become significantly harder. Yao Guang is going to help them be able to keep up at the top DPS level that they can reach, and all their best teams include Yao Guang. She is actually just the best teammate you can have. So if you have any of the elation DPS, so Silverwolf, Evanescea, or even Sparksy, Yao Guang is simply just non-negotiable. You want to have her on your account. That is quite literally the only reason. If you don't have elation characters, so now we get to the if you shouldn't summon part, it's if you're skipping the elation meta. If you don't pull Silverwolf, or maybe you pulled her just for her passive, because a lot of people do that, you just leave her like level 1, and you're not pulling Evanescea, you don't have Sparksy, in that case, don't bother with Yao Guang. She's not actually going to give you an account benefit, as outside of elation, she is not on a best in slot team. So it's really that simple. If you're into the elation meta, you have any of the DPS, or you want to, and you will pull them in the future on the reruns, in that case, pull Yao Guang, non-negotiable. If you are on the side of not having any of the elation characters and you don't plan on getting them, then don't get Yao Guang. She's not going to benefit your account. That's really it. Now we move on to the last part, the vertical investment. How do you want to go about investing into Yao Guang if you're maybe already someone that has her and you're thinking of getting 1 or 2 extra things, or maybe you're going to pull her and you want to get a bit more? The investment value is E1, then S1, then E2. While both E1 and S1 are quite valuable, E1 generally does take overall best value because it is the better increase in damage overall, as the increase to punchline taken into account is significantly better, and especially when these characters are mostly doing elation damage, that 20% defense ignore is fantastic, especially when both elation DPSs and Sparksy all use the Everglorious set, which can provide up to an additional 20% defense ignore for elation damage. So with this E1, it becomes 40%. More investment you have, and depending on the DPS themselves, can actually just get that further to be in bigger increase. Also, as I mentioned when talking about the vertical investment itself, with the 40 punch line, you are able to get a very quick Silverwolf ultimate before she even acts in some setups, hence why that is actually just a big snowball to your performance, making it that much more valuable. And specifically for Evanescea, it's more certified banger for more energy, so you you can get more once it ends. And then the defense ignore is always more damage. So E1 has more value than the S1. However, after E1, you would immediately go for S1 as it makes Yao Guang easier to build, gives crit value to the team, more energy regen for Yao Guang, and also the first turn ultimate. All that is very valuable. It's not as valuable as their E1, but it still is very valuable on its own. So once you would stag the actual E1, then you would go for the S1. E1, S1 is the best stopping point you can do. The reason I don't really recommend E2 is because, as I mentioned, it's really not that crazy. 12% speed, which is all right, and then 16% elation, which is pretty bad. For an entire dupe, that is generally not worth it, and you're much better allocating that actual amount of pulls into the DPS themselves or someone else on the team. Like if you're doing this for Silverwolf and you have Sparksy on the team, you can honestly go for like Sparksy or Silverwolf E1, work up towards their E2s because they have significantly better E2s. Same thing with Evanescea, you can just get her E1 instead because her E1 is the best DPS E1 in the game. Her E2 is also insane, or even functioning on getting on one of their light cones. Yao Guang E2 is generally not something you should consider unless you already have the best amount of investment on the others, like E2, S1, all of them. And then the next investment would be Yao Guang E2, because then there's not really much else you can do. So for E2, generally not recommended. So you'd go for E1, then you'd go for S1. E1 just has the most value, especially with how the punchline increase taken into account can get into getting a Silverwolf ult immediately, or just more energy for Evanescea, and also the defense ignore is super valuable. S1 then makes Yao Guang easier to build, gives crit value to the team, more energy for Yao Guang throughout the battle, and also the one-turn ultimate. Then finally E2, which is something you shouldn't really consider. And that is the full should you summon for Yao Guang in 4.3. I do hope you found this video helpful. If you did, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new to the channel or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all other tips and style content. And I'll see you later. Peace out.